Men often realize the value of a woman when she is not always readily available. This isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about understanding a fundamental psychological and emotional truth. We appreciate things more when we feel the risk of losing them. This applies to nearly every aspect of life: our health, our freedom, our opportunities, and yes, our relationships. When something is always present, always accessible, and always within reach, it becomes easy to take for granted. This is human nature. People assume that what is readily available today will still be there tomorrow. The same principle applies to relationships, especially romantic ones. If a woman is always there, responding instantly, always prioritizing the man, and constantly making herself available, it can create a false sense of security in his mind. He subconsciously assumes that she will always be there, and in that certainty, he may stop actively appreciating her presence. Absence, on the other hand, creates a shift. It forces a man to stop and assess what he truly values. When she is not constantly available, he begins to experience a contrast, life with her presence versus life without it. This contrast is what makes him realize the depth of his feelings. He starts to notice the little things he once overlooked. The way she laughed, the way she supported him, the way she challenged him to be better. These are things that might have faded into the background when she was always there, but in her absence, they become amplified in his mind. Think about some of the strongest emotions we feel in life: longing, nostalgia, deep appreciation. These emotions are almost always triggered by something that is missing or something that we once had but no longer do. A man may not consciously recognize the importance of a woman when she is by his side every day. The moment she steps away, he is forced to reckon with his emotions. He begins to feel the space she once filled, and that space creates a powerful realization: she is important to me. I don't want to lose her. Absence also activates the pursuit instinct in men. Men are wired to pursue, to conquer, to win. If something is handed to them without effort, it doesn't carry the same weight as something they had to work for. This is why people value achievements they struggled for more than those that came easily. The same applies in relationships. If a woman is too accessible, always responding, always waiting, a man may not feel the need to put in effort. However, when she is absent, or at least less available, it triggers his natural instinct to move towards her. He starts thinking about what he needs to do to get her attention back, to win her over again. This is not about mind games. This is about human psychology and how people function. Now, some might think that pulling away means being cold or distant, but that's not the case. It's about having your own life, your own purpose, and your own self-worth. A woman who is fully engaged in her own passions, her own goals, and her own self-care creates a natural sense of space. She is not trying to make the man miss her. She simply has a life that exists beyond him. And that in itself makes her more attractive. When a woman takes time for herself, focuses on her growth, and is not always readily available, it communicates something powerful. I am valuable. My time is valuable. If you want to be a part of my life, you have to step up. This is what creates true respect in a relationship. Furthermore, absence allows both partners to experience emotional recalibration. When people are constantly together, small annoyances can build up and appreciation can fade. But when they take time apart, they have the opportunity to reset their emotions. The little things that may have irritated them before start to seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Distance allows for reflection, and reflection strengthens appreciation. Consider long-distance relationships. Many people in these situations will say that the time apart makes them cherish the moments together even more. This is because their emotions are not dulled by overexposure. Every reunion feels fresh, exciting, and meaningful. While a woman doesn't need to create artificial distance to achieve this, she does need to ensure that there is a balance between closeness and space. A man who never experiences the fear of losing a woman may never truly understand her worth. This does not mean a woman should intentionally create distance to provoke fear. It simply means that she should never lose herself in the relationship. She should never become so available that he assumes she will never leave. At the core of this principle is self-respect and self-value. A woman who knows her worth does not chase validation. She does not try to prove her love by overextending herself. Instead, she allows a man to experience the weight of her absence so that when he does have her, he knows she is a gift, not a given. Absence is not about punishment or withdrawal. It's about creating space for appreciation, respect, and realization. If a man truly values a woman, he will feel her absence, and in that space, he will come to understand just how much she means to him. People desire what is less accessible. This is a fundamental principle of human psychology known as the scarcity effect. The idea that we tend to assign greater value to things that are rare, exclusive, or hard to obtain. It's the same reason why luxury brands thrive, why limited edition items sell out quickly, and why people suddenly crave something the moment they realize they can't have it. This psychological principle applies to relationships as well. When a woman is always available, always saying yes, always accommodating, a man may not fully grasp her value, but when she is less accessible, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that reflects her self-worth, starts to perceive her differently. Scarcity creates urgency. It forces people to pay attention. If something is abundant, easily obtained, and always around, the human brain naturally assumes that it will always be there, and therefore there is no reason to chase it. On the other hand, when something becomes scarce, when there is a possibility that it may not be available tomorrow, it triggers an instinctual response. I need to act now before I lose it. This is why businesses use scarcity tactics like limited time offers or only a few left in stock to drive purchases. But this isn't just a business strategy, it's a deeply rooted psychological response that also plays a role in relationships. When a woman is always present, always accommodating, and always prioritizing the man, he may subconsciously take her for granted. It's not necessarily intentional, it's just the way the human brain works. He assumes that because she is always there, she will continue to be. And in that assumption, his urgency to appreciate her or put in effort diminishes. He doesn't feel a need to chase or value what he believes will never leave. However, when she is not always available, when she has her own life, when she is engaged in her own growth and passions, something shifts in his mind. He starts to notice her absence. He starts to wonder what she's doing, who she's with, what's occupying her time. This isn't about playing games or making someone jealous. It's about allowing space for genuine appreciation to grow. It's about creating contrast so that he can feel the difference between having her attention and not having it. And in that contrast, his desire increases. Think about the moments when you have wanted something the most. Was it when it was readily available, or was it when you felt it slipping away? The urgency to act comes when we feel that something might be lost. This is why people fight hardest for relationships when they feel they're at risk of ending. It's why men who didn't appreciate a woman while she was present suddenly realize her value when she walks away. The loss of something important wakes people up. This does not mean a woman should deliberately create distance just to trigger a man's scarcity response. It means she should naturally maintain her sense of independence, purpose, and self-respect. When a woman has a strong sense of self, when she isn't waiting around for his attention, when she isn't constantly trying to prove her worth, she becomes inherently more valuable in his eyes. She is someone to be earned, not someone to be taken for granted. This is also why many men find themselves more attracted to women who are busy, passionate, and engaged in their own lives. A woman who is constantly chasing a man, constantly trying to be available, and constantly making him her priority, sends a subconscious message that she is not scarce. She is always there, which means he doesn't have to work for her presence. But a woman who has boundaries, who prioritizes herself, and who does not drop everything at a moment's notice, naturally triggers a different response. I need to make an effort to keep her. Effort is what creates long-term attraction and appreciation. A relationship that requires no effort loses its intensity. The moment a man feels he has to step up, put in work, and value a woman, he starts to see her differently. Scarcity makes people act. When something is uncertain, when there's a chance it might not always be there, the appreciation for it skyrockets. This is why men often realize the value of a woman after she leaves. But the goal is not to leave. It is to create a dynamic where appreciation is cultivated while still being present in the relationship. The way to do this is by not overgiving, not over-pursuing, and not making yourself too available. Give love, but don't give yourself away. Be present, but don't lose yourself in the process. The moment a woman recognizes her worth and carries herself accordingly, she naturally becomes more valued. Scarcity isn't about manipulation, it's about understanding human nature and ensuring that your presence in someone's life is recognized as a privilege, not a given. Men and women are wired differently when it comes to emotions, relationships, and purpose. At the core of this difference is the dynamic between masculine and feminine energy. Masculine energy thrives on mission, purpose, and achievement, while feminine energy is rooted in connection, intuition, and nurturing. Both energies are necessary in a relationship, but they must exist in harmony. If a man does not have the space to pursue his purpose, he may begin to feel trapped, overwhelmed, or even resentful. No matter how much he loves the woman in his life, masculine energy is deeply tied to the need for freedom and self-direction. A man's sense of identity is often shaped by his ability to provide, to create, to conquer challenges, and to move forward in his personal or professional life. When he feels too much emotional pressure, or when he perceives that he is being asked to prioritize the relationship over his sense of purpose, he may instinctively pull away. This isn't necessarily because he does not love or care for his partner. It's because his biology and psychology are urging him to reclaim his mission. A man needs to feel like he is choosing a relationship, not being forced into one. When he has the space to pursue his goals and still feels like the woman in his life supports him without demanding all of his time, he is more likely to see her as an asset rather than a responsibility. This is why some of the strongest relationships are those where both partners maintain their own lives, interests, and ambitions. If a woman constantly makes herself the center of a man's world, she unknowingly interferes with his natural drive. He may start to feel like he is losing himself in the relationship, and that loss of identity can lead to him pulling away emotionally or physically. On the other hand, when a woman understands this dynamic and allows space for a man to step into his masculine role, he starts to feel more deeply connected to her. He sees her as someone who supports rather than suffocates, as someone who inspires rather than demands. This is a critical distinction. The more a man feels that his sense of purpose is intact within the relationship, the more he will naturally be drawn to the woman who allows him that freedom. Absence in this context is not about creating emotional distance, but about ensuring that both partners maintain a sense of self. When a woman has her own goals, her own ambitions, and her own life, she naturally encourages a man to do the same. He respects her more because he sees that she is not dependent on him for her fulfillment. This respect and admiration create a deeper emotional connection because now he is not with her out of obligation, he is with her out of genuine desire. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is assuming that closeness is always the goal. While emotional intimacy is essential, too much closeness without any room for individuality can lead to emotional stagnation. If a man never has time to miss a woman, if he never has the space to reflect on how much she means to him, the relationship may lose its intensity. This is why so many men experience a renewed sense of passion for their partners after periods of separation, whether it's due to travel, career focus, or personal growth. Distance allows appreciation to grow. This concept is also reflected in the way men process emotions differently from women. While women tend to see connection and communication as a way to work through emotions, men often retreat. They process emotions internally, needing time and space to sort through their thoughts before they can fully express themselves. When a woman understands this and does not pressure a man to talk or be emotionally present every moment, she gives him the opportunity to process things in his own way. As a result, he is more likely to return to the relationship with renewed clarity and appreciation. Relationships thrive when there is a balance between togetherness and individuality. The strongest women in relationships are those who understand that their presence should be a source of inspiration, not pressure. They do not demand constant attention, nor do they make a man feel guilty for focusing on his mission. Instead, they create an environment where both partners can grow individually while remaining deeply connected. This balance is what keeps attraction, respect, and love alive. A woman who understands the importance of a man's purpose does not chase, beg, or cling. She stands confidently in her own value, knowing that when a man truly loves her, he will return not because he has to, but because he wants to. The strongest love is built not on dependency, but on mutual respect and the freedom to be oneself. When a man has time to reflect, he can determine if a woman is truly the one he wants to commit to. Reflection is a powerful process that allows people to gain clarity about their emotions, priorities, and relationships. Without space, emotions can become clouded and appreciation can diminish. This is why absence plays a crucial role in deepening a man's understanding of his feelings. When a woman is always present, always available, and always engaging with him, he may not take the time to consciously evaluate how much she means to him. However, when she steps back, whether intentionally or naturally due to her own personal growth, it creates an opportunity for him to assess what his life feels like with and without her. Men process emotions differently than women. While women often work through their feelings by talking, seeking connection, and engaging in emotional expression, men tend to process emotions internally. This means that when a man is constantly surrounded by a woman's presence, he may not fully engage with his deeper emotions. He may enjoy the relationship, appreciate her companionship, and feel comfortable, but he might not take the necessary time to truly reflect on what she means to him. Absence creates the contrast needed for that reflection. This is why so many men realize their feelings for a woman only after she has stepped away. It's not that they didn't care before, it's that they never had the space to fully grasp the depth of their emotions. When a man is given time to be alone with his thoughts, he starts to notice things he may have taken for granted. He remembers the way she made him feel, the support she provided, the joy she brought into his life. These realizations often come in moments of solitude when there are no distractions, no conversations, and no immediate interactions to cloud his thinking. Emotional clarity is essential for commitment. If a man never has time to step back and reflect, he may continue in a relationship without fully recognizing its value. This is why some men hesitate to commit. They are comfortable but not necessarily clear on their true feelings. The presence of a woman can be enjoyable, but if he never experiences her absence, he may never feel the urgency to decide what he truly wants. This is why some relationships linger in a state of uncertainty, because there has never been a moment of deep reflection to solidify a man's emotions. Absence also allows a man to compare his relationship to the rest of his life. When he is always with a woman, he may not consider how she fits into his long-term vision. But when she is not around, he has the chance to think about whether his life feels more or less complete without her. He starts to ask himself important questions. Do I miss her, or do I feel relieved? Does my life feel fuller with her in it? Do I feel more like myself when she is around? These are the kinds of realizations that lead to deeper commitment. When a man recognizes that his life is genuinely better with a woman, when he sees that her presence adds meaning, joy, and growth, He develops a stronger emotional bond. He no longer takes her for granted because he has experienced life without her, even if only for a short time. That realization strengthens his commitment, not because he was pressured or convinced, but because he came to the conclusion on his own. For a woman, the key is not to force this reflection, but to allow it to happen naturally. By maintaining her own sense of self, engaging in her own passions, and not making herself overly available, she creates the space necessary for a man to reflect. The strongest relationships are those where both partners have time to process their emotions and come together from a place of clarity rather than obligation. When a man has the chance to miss a woman, to truly reflect on what she brings into his life, he can decide with certainty that she is the one he wants to be with. Not out of habit, but out of deep, genuine understanding. When a man experiences a woman's absence, he begins to evaluate whether his life feels complete without her. This evaluation happens on both a conscious and subconscious level. At first, he may simply notice that his routine has changed. He no longer receives her texts, hears her voice, or enjoys her presence. But as time passes, he starts to feel the emotional impact of her absence. He begins to reflect on the moments they shared, the way she made him feel, and the role she played in his life. This is when a deeper realization sets in. Was she adding something valuable to my life? Or was she just there? Men often do not recognize the depth of their emotions in the moment. When a woman is always around, it's easy for her presence to feel like a natural part of life rather than something to be deeply appreciated. This isn't because he doesn't care. It's because human nature tends to take consistency for granted. But when that presence is no longer there, his mind begins to contrast his life with her versus without her. That contrast is what makes him truly assess her value. During this period of absence, he also starts to recognize the unique qualities she brought into his life. Maybe she was the one who encouraged him to be better, supported him during tough times, or brought a sense of peace and joy that he didn't even realize he needed. Sometimes it's only when a man experiences the silence of her absence that he realizes how much noise she filled in his life. The good kind of noise, the warmth, the laughter, the emotional connection. If his life feels emptier without her, if he finds himself thinking about her constantly, if he starts to feel that something essential is missing, he begins to understand that she was not just another person in his life. She was someone special. This is when a man begins to truly value a woman, not just because she was present, but because her presence made a meaningful difference. On the other hand, if a woman's absence does not create any emotional response in him, if he feels just as content without her as he did with her, that is a sign that the connection was not strong enough. This is why absence is so powerful. It acts as a test, revealing the true depth of a man's feelings. The key for a woman is not to create this absence as a strategy or a manipulation tactic, but rather to naturally allow space in the relationship. When she maintains her own sense of self, pursues her own goals, and does not constantly seek validation from him, she naturally allows him to feel the difference between having her in his life and not. A man who genuinely values a woman will recognize her importance when she is not there, and it is in that realization that his feelings of love, appreciation, and commitment deepen. When a man realizes a woman's worth in her absence, his desire to pursue and commit to her grows stronger. This realization is not something that can be forced. It must come from within him. When a woman constantly makes herself available, a man may never feel the urgency to evaluate her importance in his life. But when she steps back, focuses on herself, and creates space, it allows him to go through a natural emotional process. He begins to understand how much she truly meant to him. At first, he may not immediately recognize the significance of her absence. He may enjoy the initial freedom, focusing on his work, hobbies, or social life. But over time, as he moves through his daily routine, he starts to notice the empty spaces she used to fill. He realizes that the conversations he once took for granted are no longer there. The warmth, support, and companionship she brought into his life are missing. This is when he begins to reflect on what she truly offered him, beyond just her physical presence. Men are wired to value what they have to earn. If something comes too easily, they may not fully appreciate it. This is why the experience of loss often makes a man see things more clearly. When he feels the contrast between having her and not having her, his emotions become more defined. He starts to ask himself, was I happier when she was in my life? Did she add something that no one else did? Am I willing to risk losing her forever? These questions ignite his desire to take action. This is also the moment when a man must make a choice. If he realizes that she was truly special, he will feel a deep urge to pursue her again. He will not want to let her slip away, and his actions will show it. A man who truly values a woman will not remain passive. He will step up, take responsibility, and show her that he is ready to commit. The difference between a temporary attraction and a deep emotional bond is that a man who truly cares will not allow pride or fear to stop him from making an effort. For a woman, the key is to allow this process to happen without forcing it. If she tries to convince him of her worth, chase him, or pressure him into realizing her value, she robs him of the chance to come to that conclusion on his own. A man's love grows stronger when he feels that choosing her is his decision, not something he was manipulated into. When a man reaches the point where he understands her worth and actively chooses to pursue and commit to her, the relationship becomes stronger than before. His feelings are no longer based on convenience or habit. They are rooted in deep appreciation. He values her because he knows what life feels like without her, and he does not want to experience that loss again. This is the foundation of true, lasting commitment. In the end, the strongest relationships are not built on pressure, obligation, or constant presence. They are built on desire, appreciation, and choice. A man needs space to realize, reflect, and reaffirm his feelings. He must come to the conclusion on his own that a woman is the one for him, not because she convinced him, but because he felt it deeply in her absence. When a woman understands this, she steps into her power. She does not chase, beg, or force love. She allows it to unfold naturally. She maintains her own life, her own passions, and her own sense of self. And in doing so, she gives a man the greatest gift, the opportunity to truly recognize her value. A man who truly loves a woman will return, pursue, and commit because he knows what life feels like without her, and he does not want to risk losing her again. That is the foundation of a strong, lasting, and deeply fulfilling relationship, one built not on dependency, but on mutual respect, freedom, and undeniable connection.